off Trump, but at the same time to give enough to we'll call it to the Democrats, right, in order to effectuate the hopeful return of Mr. Garcia. You agree with that?
I do. And look,
I told you we were on the same. I told you, Harry, we were on the same.
Yeah, so I got it wrong. What was I thinking? But look, I just misunderstood what you were saying up front. But I totally agree. And here's the point. The administration has tried to seize on this language. Back to Minister of Propaganda Stephen Miller said, we won 9-0 in the Supreme Court. Total trash. They lost 9-0. But every opinion, including hers, why did she say facilitate and effectuate? Everyone understands if at the end of the day, we're trying our hardest, but the El Salvador president is saying you can declare war and I'm not going to let him out. Okay, now we're in a bona fide foreign policy situation that is the executive's call. But you can't simply say nothing. So what they said about effectuate, the Supreme Court, was just, please clarify. She's always left that teeny bit of room. But here's the point. That's the 10-yard line, and they're on the opposite goal line. They haven't taken step one in that direction because they're trying to say, as long as we hold up this foreign policy card, we can shut up completely. That is wrong under the law. It's clear foreign policy doesn't mean that the judiciary is out of it. They get to figure out, is this a good foreign policy call? They'll be deferential, but they get to figure it out. So I agree. They've always said, a point could come where you got to back off. She understands that too, but we are miles from that point because the administration is trying to say, and I think they're going to go down, that we don't have to, we don't even have to give name, rank, and serial number. All she's asking them is, what have you tried to do to get him back? As the Supreme Court has affirmed my orders, to facilitate, make it easier. And what do you plan to do? And they're just, Sphinx-like saying, we don't have to tell you that. That's wrong. They do. Right. And that's what these next 2 weeks are going to reveal.
If they just said effectuate, that means get his ass back here as opposed to facilitate. Well, right. Sure, we'll send a plane if in fact something becomes available. Now you have this guy, President Bukele, saying, I have no power within which to smuggle him back. The whole thing is such nonsense. But the question I really want to ask, no, I can't, Harry. The question I really want to ask you is, why is the right-wing media more dangerous than that? Is Trump's team, right, with Stephen Miller and Carolyn Levitt and others, why are they mischaracterizing this decision as a green light to deport whomever they want, regardless of legal status or due process? I just don't understand what they think that they're going to get out of this. The base that they control, they already own. They own their minds. What's the point?
Yeah. So this is the heavy duty question to me, Michael. And I'm just this as good as I were in the realm of politics, but I've been pretty well persuaded. Trump doesn't, he knows he needs to keep the base intact in order to, that's his magic, secret sauce. I don't think he cares about him anymore. I don't think he cares about even giving them, I think he wants this mad lunatic power to really be able to push any button anywhere in society. And he's past politics in that sense. If he's going to stay in power, it'll just be by seizing the levers of government, a la Putin or Hungary and the like. So I don't think he's trying to give them some red meat. I think he's trying to get his own power down. In the Oval Office, for God's sake, he said, I'd like to do this to Americans also. And he's going to, try to. Yesterday, we now have the IRS saying, let's pull the tax exempt status of Harvard. He's just looking.
We're going to get into all of that, Harry.
Okay. All I'm saying is I long since gave up psychoanalyzing him, but I've been pretty well persuaded by people I respect, and I think you respect, that it's a different deal with him now. It's just power lunacy, not trying to, in the last Trump 1.0, he was looking to be reelected. I don't think he is anymore.
No, well, I don't think he thinks there's going to even be another election. I
That's
think
right.
that he'll just ultimately look to stay in power. But look, as lawyers, for me, and especially as somebody who has gone through the system improperly, and you know the whole story, the unconstitutional remand, the fact that the Supreme Court wouldn't even hear my Bivens case, I'm always concerned, as I was when I was writing the book Revenge, how Donald Trump weaponized the United States Department of Justice against his critics. What precedent does this set? If a person can be deported after the government admits that it made a mistake, the question I want to ask you is, who's safe? And what message does it send to every immigrant who has actually followed the rules? Like this guy, Garcia, he followed the rules. He came in, I think it was 2012. I like how Trump is trying to blame Biden and the Biden administration for this guy. He was in well before Joe Biden, right? He was in during the Obama administration. He was in during Trump's first term. He was in during the Biden administration, and also for a time period in now Trump's second term before he was improperly removed.
I'm going to take those as what we lawyers call rhetorical questions and say, I agree with you. No one's safe. They could just, a car could stop, get you, put you on a plane, send you to El Salvador and say, oops, sorry, there's nothing to be done. And, but I want to, as a former DOJ guy, really call out the Attorney General of the United States, the highest federal law enforcement officer we have, because this total trashing, as you pointed out, of Abrego Garcia, totally wrong. This, I think you know the facts, but double hearsay by a guy who was fired, said he was in New York operating, and he's never lived in New York, and we know all the things he's done, but totally beside the point. He could be the most serious criminal in the world. There's an extant judicial order that says don't send him to El Salvador, and they made a mistake. We know they made a mistake. If you want to prove him to be, the next Pablo Escobar, bring him to court and give him due process, and then send him away. So the Attorney General of the United States standing up, starting with her slavish, praise of maximum leader, giving really faulty facts, and then just ignoring the legal point, which is you've been ordered to, and they want to say something like, well, no harm, no foul. He's bad anyway. That's a lie, but it's beside the point for me as a law nerd, because there is a harm, there is a foul. It's called the Constitution of the United States. And to see the Attorney General, standing for that just nauseates me.
Yeah, well, Trump did the same thing with
but he's
with Bill Barr. I mean, it's the same shit. Same shit. But meanwhile, speaking about the courts, let's say the judiciary says stop, right? Which the courts basically have. And the president says, go fuck yourself, right? What are the constitutional consequences when the executive branch flat out refuses, flat out gives them the two-finger salute to follow the court's decision? Are we truly looking at a full-blown constitutional crisis here? Enlighten my listeners with your brilliance on what actually happens here. Because, Harry, here's the thing. I guarantee you, this shit is coming down the street. All
right. Well, look, you don't have to be brilliant to know. This is the phrase that's been bandied about forever, that we've been keeping our eye on. It is a full-on paradigmatic, can I use that legal word, constitutional. It is the very thing. It is the executive has already mowed down Congress, but they've been willing supplicants. This is the court saying, do this. And we're talking stuff from the framers. The whole problem, courts don't have the power to make it happen, but they've always enjoyed the cultural credibility that they declare, and